Hi, I'm Sue Ellam and I'm a tarot reader and have been for about 25 years. And I'm using the Mythic Tarot, which is based on Greek mythology.
And those of you who have been watching every video know this intro by heart. I'm Carrie Beleno, and I am a 20-plus intuitive Reiki master teacher and a spiritual life coach, and the keeper of the questions. So, today's question: how do we cope with anger?
I hope a lot of people listen to this one,
Yeah.
whatever it says. How do we cope with anger? It's a difficult one. So many people think it's justified as well.
Yes, indeed.
But I will let the cards tell the story. Okay. Tower is about things leaving your life, and we can get angry when we're trying to hold on and let other people if things are starting to leave our lives, quite often we'll get angry, we'll get fearful, we'll get upset because we don't want things to leave, and we don't think it's for a higher purpose. For instance, if you lose a job, you might get angry about, oh, you know, they kept so and so and they let me go. If a friendship disappears, you get angry. There's so many triggers for anger. But the Tower card, this is saying, it's like a housekeeping card. You know, we have to let go of things in order for new things to come to us. We can't accumulate. Can you imagine if you've for example, kept every single piece of clothing you've had throughout your lifetime? Can you imagine how many houses you would have to accumulate them all? So you kind of let some things go and let new things in order so you can buy some new. And this is what we need to do with situations in our lives as well. We can't stay in the same place, even if it's a place that's quite comfortable for us. We are down here on this planet in order to progress, to move forward. Some people just leave our lives, some people stay. So the secret here is not to get attached to the outcome. Just wait and see. Do your best, and if people disappear, they disappear. If jobs disappear, they disappear, because it's a sign there's change and there's new things coming. It's also important to work very hard on yourself and your projects. Keep ahead of the game, you know, so keep on top of any emotions that will instigate anger in you. You know, keep working at yourself. Look at what triggers you to be angry. You know, many years ago, a friend of mine was driving along quite happily, and then suddenly this car came out a side road and smashed into his car. And the guy that came out, he was furious, and it wasn't my friend's fault. This guy had come out the side road. And he said to me, why was he so angry? I said, well, the thing is, this friend of mine has been harboring a lot of anger within him about something completely different. He wasn't angry that day, but there was anger in him about some different situations. And so what he'd done is he'd attracted anger, even that he wasn't experiencing anger at that time. So we have to be very vigilant. And if something triggers our emotions, if it triggers fear, or grief, it can eventually, if we kind of mentalize it, it can change into anger, change into, that wasn't fair, you know, why did this happen to me? So we have to be very vigilant about not holding on to the stuff. This is about inner conflicts. And another thing that we can resolve anger with is by making sure that people know where we're coming from, that we're not ambivalent in any way in our relationships with other people, that we don't say things we don't mean because we think it's there for it's an easier life. We don't ignore injustices or things that we feel aren't for the higher good. We don't ignore those things. We don't have to be aggressive about it, but we need to make our own position clear, because otherwise this will just erupt. I always liken it to a boil, which grows and grows and grows, and it's really painful. But when it ripens, it bursts, and then the body can heal. But it isn't until that it's kind of at the final stages of building up, and then the healing can begin. So this card here is about the things coming to the surface, the things that we have said or haven't said, the situations that we haven't dealt with in an authentic way, then it comes up. But it's also our inner conflict with dealing with anger as well. So again, vigilance is the key. Don't worry, worry again. Once we get into this prison of our own making by being worried, then we start to, often we can slide into blaming other people, or feeling sorry for ourselves. People aren't being fair, they're not being just. And then we get, again, so many emotions can end up with anger, and we think it's justified anger. And with justified anger, we're right, everybody else is wrong. And then it becomes a banner that we walk behind, and we can't let it, but it's very difficult to let it go, because it becomes our reason for being. Whether it be anger, there's so much anger going on in the world. It's all about injustice. You can look at it environmentally, the anger that's triggered about how people treat animals, how people treat each other. There's so much anger, and worry about, will this ever change? The thing is, with this, some anger is justified, and it needs to be acted on in some way or another. But it's when anger becomes internalized, then we can't see clearly. So if I see an injustice, or I see like an animal harmed or a person being harmed, then it is for me, it's about me needing to do something about that, to try and kind of diffuse the situation, help the situation in whatever way it is best for me to do so, being the person I am. But for me to then get really angry, internally angry about it, and then that build up, then I can't see clearly. It becomes like a red mist. Many years ago in my youth, I remember getting very angry, only less than 3 or 4 times. And I don't know what I said to the people who made me angry. I really don't. All I was aware of, that their faces kept changing color. That was all I was aware of. The minute I stopped talking, I didn't remember a word I said, because I was out of control with my anger, and I didn't like myself doing that. So it's important to look for justice, but not internalize the anger, because it makes you ineffective. You can lose friends, all sorts, if you're not careful. And you need to look at, do I stay with what I have, or put my energies into something else? So it's trying to do the right thing, but be prepared to change the way you do it. because, not everything, there's a certain coming together. I mean, we're looking at protests. I know there's a lot going on at the moment, but there's been many protests over the years. And I don't know how many of them actually have been effective, to be honest. I'm not an expert on protests, so if anyone wants to say, oh, well, we did this protest, it was really effective and everything changed because of it, then that's fantastic. But I'm not sure how many are actually effective. And it's all these people coming together in anger. So we need to find another way of it. I know there's peaceful protests, but then few angry people get in there and they change the whole tone of it. It's like the rotten apples in the fruit basket. Eventually, it affects all the other fruit. So we need to decide how we are going to. I prefer to call it outrage rather than anger. How we are going to show our outrage in a way that is productive, because then we're going to be very proud of ourselves. We have to pat ourselves on the back and say we've done well, and know we've done well. Nobody else will have to tell us, because there'll be a feeling of achievement, accomplishment within us. And those are the cards.
Wow. So I just want to start out with I wrote something, make room for the new, that you were talking about, the anger, releasing things out of your life, make room for the new. And then I wrote, but if the energy around the space that's left for the new is angry, what you receive may not be what's best for you. And right after I wrote that, you told the story about your friend receiving the car accident, with the perfect example of that statement in real life. There is. I started doing Facebook Live videos back when we went into stay-at-home orders. And I know one early in March was about what I called righteous anger, and how that righteous anger, now it's being called righteous rage. I heard that yesterday. And this was way before the protests and way before the Black Lives Matter came to the surface again. But the righteous anger is a form of unity. It is born out of love. It's righteous anger is all about things not being fair, things not being just. And that's all a branch of love. Well, it's not fair that he gets this and I don't, or I get this and he doesn't. And I want to make that equal. And I'm angry. So know that the anger that a lot of us are feeling around the pandemic, around all of the societal structures breaking down, all of the protest topics are most of them are around righteous anger, which is noble. It is noble to have that born out of love. But what we need to do now is move that anger into action, into tangible, love-based unity action. And that's what I think you were kind of headed toward there at the end, is not internalizing the anger and just allowing it to raise our blood pressure and throw things at the TV and all of that. But how do you join with people who are making progress? I jumped on a call last night with our with our House representative, and I wanted to know what changes are being made. I want to know what they're talking about. I want to know. So investigate ways that righteous anger can be funneled into action, into tangible love-based unity action. Because the anger is a trigger, like you said, that something isn't resonating with you. So that makes me angry. That means it's not on a vibration that you are on. So you have a choice. You can raise the vibration around the topic, or you can sink down to the anger of it. So our recommendation is that you raise the vibration of the topic with tangible, love-based action rather than just sinking down into the anger of it.
I think that's a good deep dive into it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have no more to say on the subject.
How do we cope with anger?
Absolutely.
There's our daily message.
I know. Okay, well, it's goodbye from me now.
See you later.